The White House grappling with a firestorm tonight. Reports President Trump asked FBI Director James Comey to close the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. I want to bring in now CNN Global Affairs analyst Tony Blinken, a former Deputy Secretary of State and former Deputy National Security Advisor, and presidential historians Douglas Brinkley and Doug Weed. Good evening to you. Here we go, another evening, Doug Brinkley, where we're talking about some bombshell story coming out of Washington and the White House specifically. Just 1 week ago, the president fired FBI Director James Comey, launching a fresh scandal with shades of Watergate. Then yesterday, reports the president disclosed classified information to the Russians. And tonight now, there is news about the FBI director believed the president was trying to interfere in the Russia investigation. And then he documented it in memos. What is the state of this presidency right now?
The White House is in utter chaos. Donald Trump is kind of trolling about. He doesn't really have any advisors that can calm him down. He's made so many mistakes, the way that he's used Twitter, the potential here for obstruction of justice, the cover-up attempt, the fact that you're getting Republicans on their heels right now. I think today was sort of an end of the line for Donald Trump. Question's always been, will Republicans start jumping ship? And you're starting to get intimations of that. John McCain this evening put one of the harshest comments I've seen yet about Donald Trump. And there's a fear that we might be having a Watergate 2 impeachment. The smell of impeachment's in the air now.
Tony Blinken, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
Well, there's just an accumulation that at some point you think the dam has to break. I don't know when that point is. We've said that before. But this is just incredibly corrosive in so many ways. It's mostly corrosive to people's faith in our institutions and leaders when you see this day after day after day. And when I step back and think about this, this all started in large part with the concern that Russia had tried to influence our election. And what they were trying to do was to undermine people's faith in our institutions. And now, unfortunately, the president, by his action, is actually doing Russia's work for it. Every step along the way now, firing Mr. Comey, apparently sharing this intelligence that he shouldn't have shared, and now perhaps having tried to influence Mr. Comey to lay off Mr. Flynn. All of that actually does exactly what Russia was trying to achieve in undermining the credibility and legitimacy of our institutions and our leaders. So that's what's really bad about this, and why it one way or another it needs to end. And I hope it ends with the president starting to act like a president.
Yeah. Doug Weed, before I move into specifics, I just want to get your just general response to this breaking news.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't. I see it totally differently. I mean, the Jim Comey firing, it's portrayed like the FBI are 12 men operating out of a garage, and so he's fired, and that ends the investigation. And what hasn't been said and what isn't discussed is his successor, Andrew McCabe, is a Democrat who investigated Hillary Clinton, found her innocent, and whose wife, Jill McCabe, received $700,000 when she ran for office in Virginia from the Clinton machine, $500,000 of it from Terry McAuliffe. No one talks about that. He's the acting director of the FBI.
What does that have to do with this investigation?
It has to do with the fact that all day long people have been saying he fired Comey, therefore he was trying to obstruct justice by keeping the investigation into the Russian collusion. Well, it didn't stop the investigation at all. It didn't even
with
cause
all
a
due
road
respect,
bump.
I still don't understand what one has to do with the other.
Well, you just mentioned, your guest just before mentioned the firing of Comey as part of the obstruction of justice. Because just because you get rid of Comey, you don't get rid of the FBI investigation. The current acting head of the FBI is a Democrat.
But I'm still trying to understand what that has to do with the current FBI guy being a Democrat and investigating Hillary Clinton. I don't see a clear line here.
Because the president does not improve his chances in the investigation by exchanging Comey for Andrew McCabe. There's no improvement for Donald Trump.
Andrew McCabe is the acting director, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So and he has to appoint another. He's going to appoint a permanent director.
Maybe, but they're considering McCabe too.
Does anyone on this panel want to respond to that?
Look, I've served with Andrew McCabe. He is a consummate professional. So, you know, it's always fun to try to tear down people in order to distract from what's really going on. But you're barking up the wrong tree if you're trying to tear down Andrew McCabe.
I'm not tearing him down. I'm just stating the fact he's a Democrat, so it's not improving the president's odds by getting rid of Comey.
No, what he is a professional, and that may not be improving the president's
right.
odds either.
Well, I guess the point that maybe you're trying to make, it's a little disjointed. But look, the FBI isn't about one person, and they're going to continue with this investigation. Question is Donald Trump in a position to choose a new FBI director? Will Senate, Congress approve somebody who Donald Trump even picks? I think Trump has a real problem in the Republican Party now. People are starting to look for an exit strategy. The very fact that Comey kept this memo, it's going to be a permanent record. He's probably going to end up testifying in front of a Senate hearing. This Russian situation's not going away. It's because Donald Trump, President of the United States, is not being forthcoming about what his relationship is with Russia. He's every moment trying to obfuscate, hide, deflect, fire, ignore, blame the press, blame Democrats when it's Donald Trump's problem. Whatever he did in 2016 with Russia, there needs to be a transparency. And the fact that he had the temerity and the gall to pull Comey aside and try to get him to be easy on Flynn, don't give him a get out of jail pass for free, and therefore maybe I'll keep you, Mr. Comey, on as FBI, and we'll be in cahoots together is really troubling.
I'll give you the last word here, Doug Weed. Go ahead.
Well, President Obama tried to work with Russia when he came into power over Syria, and the bureaucracy resisted him just as they are now resisting Trump. They don't like, they're pulled kicking and screaming in that direction. They don't want to go there. It's almost like another branch of government, the bureaucracy. So it's a similar crisis. It was a similar crisis. And
it is, and we just had a cyber attack in 2016 on our election system with Russian involvement. Everybody knows Russia was involved with the cyber attack. That's different than when Obama was president, and that's what you're talking about.
Well, that's more recent. But we've had interference with elections from foreign governments from the very beginning.
Like
John Adams was an agent of the United Kingdom. Thomas Jefferson was an agent of the French. All through our history we've had. Yes, we've had worse than this with the Chinese under the Clintons, where millions of dollars were donated to the Clintons and Chinese officials in the Oval Office, and the money had to be refunded. Your viewers can Google it and read all about it.
You don't think that this is an interference of a different kind, especially when it has to deal with cyber and about putting out propaganda through means through which you didn't once have to do? You can spread it faster and quicker and in a larger extent than at any point in history, Doug Weed?
Well, technology has changed, maybe so, but the money that came into the Clintons that had to be refunded, that came both to the DNC and came to the president's legal trust fund, that had to be refunded. There were 66 criminal counts brought against the people who made the donations. That was a serious crisis, and some of the donors were from the People's Republic of China. They scattered when the FBI tried to prosecute them.
Let's get this back on track. I want to bring Tony Blinken back into this. Tony, I don't know if you want to respond to any of that, but in my questioning, you can respond however you want, but please answer, what is a denial from the White House worth these days?
You know, Don, again, this is the problem. What we've seen with President Trump, and this pains me more than anything else, is an adversarial relationship with the truth, going back a long time and time again. We've heard things from the president that basically have made him the main consumer and purveyor of fake news and misinformation. And as a result, his own credibility is self-tattered. And what we've seen in all of the stories you've referenced this evening is, in the first instance, the White House coming out and saying it never happened, and then the next day the president himself saying, well, you know what, it did, and it's fine, because I did it. And this is also putting a lot of very good people in a very tough spot. There are very honorable men and women working for the president who are in a hard place. H.R. McMaster, Dina Powell, others, who now have to vouch for him, and then find themselves undercut the very next day by the president himself. And all of this is just incredibly corrosive to our democracy and to our standing in the world. The president's about to go off on a very important trip. And I think this story is going to hang on him like a dead weight.
Yeah.
And he'll be focused on that, not on doing the business of the country and our nation's security when he's traveling abroad.
Tony Blinken, Doug Weed, and Douglas Brinkley, thank you very much. When we come back, more on our breaking news. Some Republicans distancing themselves from the president. Where does the GOP go from here?